The sky was dark and heavy with thick clouds. A terrible storm was about to hit the small planet. Strong winds howled like wild beasts. Shaking the trees and rocks, lightning split the sky, lighting up the world for a moment. Rain began to fall in heavy drops, pounding the ground like drums. In the middle of a wild forest, far from any town or shelter, a small alien child wandered alone, her tiny feet slipping on wet stones. Her skin was pale blue, and her big eyes were full of fear. The storm scared her, but she did not know where to go, she cried softly, but the loud roar of the wind made her voice almost disappear. The child's name was Lyra, and she was lost. She had been separated from her family during the storm. Her small body was weak and shaking from the cold. Her breaths came fast and shallow, and her hands trembled. The rain soaked her thin clothes, making her shiver even more. Not far away, a human explorer named Jack was walking carefully through the forest. He was a strong man with dark hair and kind eyes. Jack was on a mission to study strange plants and animals on this planet. He did not expect to find anything dangerous. But the storm made his work very hard. Suddenly, through the loud wind and rain, he heard a soft cry. Jack stopped and listened closely. The cry was weak, but full of pain. He looked around and saw nothing at first, only trees moving wildly in the wind. Then he saw a small shape on the ground. It's almost hidden by wet leaves and mud. He ran towards it as fast as he could, his heart pounding. When Jack reached the spot, he saw Lyra lying on the wet ground. Her eyes were half closed, and she looked very sick. Jack's heart filled with sadness and fear. He gently picked her up, holding her close to keep her warm. Lyra opened her eyes a little and looked at him with trust. "Don't worry, little one," Jack said softly. "I will keep you safe." But the storm was still fierce, and the wind pushed hard against them. Jack knew they had to find shelter quickly, or Lyra might not survive. He looked around for a safe place to hide from the rain and wind. Near them was a small cave in the side of a hill. Jack moved carefully, holding Lyra tightly. His clothes were wet, and the cold rain made his skin numb. The storm made it hard to see, and the ground was slippery. But Jack did not stop or look back. He focused only on reaching the cave to save the child. When they reached the cave, Jack went inside slowly. The cave was dark and cold, but it was dry and safe from the storm. He laid Lyra down gently on some soft moss and tried to make her comfortable. Lyra's breathing was still weak, and she looked tired. Jack took off his jacket and covered her with it to keep her warm. Jack's mind was full of questions. Who was this alien child? Why was she alone in this wild place during a storm? And most important, how could he save her life? He looked at Lyra's small face and saw how fragile she was. Her blue skin had lost some color, and her lips were dry. Jack took a small bottle from his bag, filled with water and some medicine. He gave her a little water to drink, hoping it would help. Lyra's eyes slowly closed as she rested. But she did not sleep. Outside, the storm continued to rage. The wind screamed around the cave like a wild animal. Lightning flashed again, making shadows dance on the cave walls. Jack sat close to Lyra, watching over her all night. He did not feel tired because his heart told him he must protect her. As the hours passed, the storm began to slow down. The rain became lighter, and the wind lost its power. Jack looked outside and saw the first stars appear in the dark sky. He felt hope grow inside him. Maybe Lyra would live after all. But Jack knew their journey was only beginning. The forest was dangerous, and they were far from help. More storms could come, or worse things might happen. He promised himself he would never let Lyra go. No matter what, he would keep her safe. Suddenly, from deep inside the forest, Jack heard a sound, a strange noise like a growl, low and threatening. He stood up quickly, holding Lyra close to his chest. His eyes searched the dark trees, trying to find the source of the sound. His heart beat faster, but he did not show fear. Jack whispered, "Stay close, little one. I will protect you." He took a small knife from his belt and prepared to face whatever came. The night was quiet again, but Jack knew danger was near. The story of the lost alien child and the brave human had just begun. Would Jack keep his promise? Would Lyra survive the storm and the dark forest? Only time would tell. The forest was quiet for a moment after the strange sound. Jack held the alien child, Lyra, tightly against his chest. Her small body felt weak, and her breathing was still slow. He knew the storm had hurt her badly, and she needed help fast. But help was far away in this wild place. Jack looked at the dark forest around the cave. Tall trees stood like giants, their leaves still shaking from the storm. The ground was soft and muddy, making each step hard and slow. He knew he had to move quickly, but carefully too. Lyra's life was fragile, and the forest was full of dangers. Slowly, Jack stood up, holding Lyra closer. He wrapped his jacket tighter around her to keep her warm. His eyes scanned the dark woods for the safest path out. He could hear the last drops of rain falling from the leaves. The air smelled fresh but cold, and the wind whispered softly. Jack took a deep breath and stepped outside the cave. The night was clear now, with bright stars shining above. He hoped the stars would guide him back to safety. He walked carefully, making sure not to slip on the wet ground. Every sound made him stop and listen closely as he moved forward. Jack's mind raced with worries. What if they were not alone in the forest? What if the strange growl meant a wild animal was near? Could he protect Lyra from the dangers waiting in the dark? Still, he could not give up, not when the child's life was at risk. Lyra was quiet in his arms, her eyes closed as if she was trying to sleep. Jack gently touched her forehead and felt it was burning with fever. He knew the cold and the storm had made her sick. He whispered softly, "Hold on, Lyra. I won't let anything happen to you." But the fear inside him grew stronger with every step. Suddenly, Jack heard a sharp crack from the trees behind him. He turned quickly, ready to face whatever was coming, but it was only a small animal running through the leaves. Relief washed over Jack, but he knew the forest still held many secrets. He needed to be ready for anything. Hours passed as Jack carefully carried Lyra through the forest. The ground became harder and rocky, making the journey even more difficult. Sometimes he stumbled, but never let go of the child. He talked to her softly to keep her awake and calm. "Almost there," he said. "Just a little more. Stay strong." The forest began to change as they moved forward. The trees grew thinner, and the sound of running water reached their ears. Jack followed the sound, hoping it meant a river or stream nearby. Water would help Lyra feel better and clean her wounds. He felt a small hope grow in his heart. At last, Jack found a small river with clear, cool water. He carefully sat down by the riverbank and laid Lyra down gently. Her eyes fluttered open, and she looked at the water with tired curiosity. Jack took off his jacket again and dipped it in the river. He cleaned the dirt and blood from her small arms and face. Lyra weakly smiled at Jack, a small sign of trust. Jack smiled back and felt a warm feeling inside. He knew this was the beginning of something important, but the forest was still dangerous, and they were far from safety. Jack needed a plan to keep Lyra alive and find help. Suddenly, a noise came from the trees across the river. Jack froze and listened carefully. It was soft footsteps, slow and careful. Someone or something was coming closer. Jack stood up quickly, ready to protect Lyra from the shadows. A figure appeared, a tall alien with glowing eyes. Jack did not know if this alien was a friend or enemy. The alien looked at Lyra and then at Jack with surprise. Jack held Lyra tighter and spoke calmly. "We mean no harm." The alien's eyes softened, and it stepped closer. "My name is Cora," the alien Said, "I have been looking for this child." Jack felt relief mixed with new questions. "Why were you looking for her?" "Is she safe with me?" Jack asked. Cora nodded slowly. "She is very special, and many want to find her." Jack looked at Lyra, who was now resting quietly. Cora explained that Lyra was from a powerful alien family. Many enemies wanted to capture her for their own plans. That is why she was lost and alone during the storm. Cora promised to help Jack protect Lyra and find a safe place. Jack agreed, knowing he could not do it alone. Together, Jack, Cora, and Lyra moved deeper into the forest. The night air was still and quiet, but danger was close. Jack felt a new hope, but also new fear. Could they protect the child from those who hunted her? Would Lyra survive the long journey to safety? The story of the lost alien child and the brave human grew stronger. Jack's promise to keep her safe was more important than ever. With new friends and new dangers ahead, the rescue had only just begun. The forest grew thicker and darker as Jack, Cora, and the small alien child Lyra moved deeper inside. Tall trees blocked the moonlight, and shadows danced on the ground. Every step was slow and careful, because the forest was full of unknown dangers. Jack held Lyra close, feeling her weak heartbeat against his chest. She was still too fragile to walk on her own, and the long journey was hard for her. Cora led the way with steady eyes, moving like she knew every secret path. Her glowing eyes cut through the darkness, guiding them safely through twisted roots and fallen branches. Jack watched her carefully. Hoping she was truly a friend, he remembered how scared he was when he first heard the strange growl. Now, with Cora by his side, he felt a small hope, but still, the fear did not leave. Suddenly, the ground beneath them dropped steeply, and they reached a hidden cave entrance. It was small and dark, almost invisible behind thick bushes and hanging vines. Cora stopped and looked at Jack and Lyra. "This cave is safe. We can rest here and hide from anyone who hunts the child," she said quietly. Jack nodded, relieved to find shelter before the cold night grew worse. They entered the cave slowly. The air cool and damp inside. Jack's eyes took a moment to adjust to the darkness. He could hear the dripping of water from the cave ceiling and the soft breath of Lyra. Carefully, Jack laid Lyra down on a bed of soft moss that Cora had prepared. He covered her gently with his wet jacket to keep her warm. Jack looked around the cave and saw small drawings on the walls. Strange shapes and symbols glowing faintly under Cora's light. Cora noticed Jack's gaze and said, "These are old signs of protection, made by my people." Jack felt a chill run down his spine, but also comfort. Maybe this place would keep them safe for a while. As Lyra closed her eyes to rest, Jack sat close by, never leaving her side. He pulled out a small bag from his pack with medical supplies. He cleaned the child's wounds as best as he could. Her skin was cold and clammy, but her breathing was steady. Jack whispered, "You're safe now, little one. We won't let anything hurt you." Cora prepared a small fire near the cave entrance. The warm light flickered and pushed the darkness back just enough to see. Jack and Cora shared a quiet moment. Watching the fire's glow, Cora told Jack about her world, a place where many wanted to control the powerful bloodline of the child. Lyra's family was in danger because of their strength and history. Jack listened, feeling more responsibility than ever. He was not just a human explorer anymore. He was a protector. The storm, the forest, and the enemies all were part of a bigger fight, but he promised himself he would never leave Lyra alone. Not now, not ever. Suddenly, soft sounds came from outside the cave. Jack's hand moved too, his knife ready to defend. Cora stood in front of him, calm but alert. The sounds grew louder, a group of voices whispering and moving through the trees. Jack's heart pounded as he realized they were not alone. The voices spoke a language Jack did not understand, but their tone was harsh and angry. Cora whispered, "They are the hunters. They will not stop until they find Lyra." Jack's grip tightened around his knife. He looked down at Lyra, who slept peacefully. Unaware of the danger, "We need to protect her," Jack said quietly. Cora nodded. "We will make a plan too." Fight if they come. Jack felt fear, but also determination. He knew he had to be brave for the child's sake. Hours passed slowly. The fire casting long shadows on the cave walls. Outside, the hunters moved closer. Their whispers sharp and fast. Jack and Cora prepared quietly. They sharpened knives and gathered rocks ready to defend the small cave. Suddenly, a sharp noise sounded near the cave entrance. A branch snapped under heavy footsteps. Jack held his breath. The hunters were almost here. Cora hissed, "Stay silent and ready." Jack's heart was loud in his ears. The cave door began to shake. As the first hunter pushed inside, the dark figure stepped into the firelight. Eyes glowing with greed, Jack stepped forward. "Knife ready? Stay back." He shouted. The hunter smiled cruelly and raised a weapon. Jack's fight for Lyra's life had just begun. The cave was filled with tense silence, broken only by the soft breathing of the sleeping child. Jack stood firm, his knife raised against the shadowy figure in front of him. The hunter's eyes glinted cruelly in the firelight. But he paused for a moment. Cora stepped forward, her glowing eyes meeting the hunter's without fear. Her voice was calm but strong as she said, "This child is under my protection." The hunter laughed, a cold, hard sound. "You think you can stop us?" "We have orders to bring her back," he said. Jack tightened his grip on his knife, ready for a fight. But Cora raised her hand, signaling Jack to wait. She turned to the hunter and spoke quietly. "If you harm her, you will face more than you expect." The hunter's smile faded slightly, but he did not move back. Jack felt the danger grow. Like a storm ready to explode, suddenly, a loud growl echoed from deeper in the forest. Both the hunter and Cora turned their heads sharply. Alert, the sound came closer, fierce and wild. Jack saw a large shadow move outside the cave. It was a beast, unlike anything he had seen before. Cora's eyes narrowed. "That is Carrick, protector of the forest," she whispered. The hunter took a step back, fear crossing his face for the first time. Carrick growled again, louder and closer. The beast appeared at the cave entrance, its eyes shining like stars. Squaw! It looked at the hunter, then at Lyra, and growled once more. The hunter dropped his weapon quickly, fear rooting him to the ground. Cora nodded to Jack. "The forest protects her as much as we do." Jack felt a new strength fill him, knowing they were not alone. The hunter stumbled backward and fled into the dark woods. Jack watched him disappear between the trees, heart still pounding. Cora turned to Jack. "They will come back. But we have time now." Jack looked down at Lyra, who was stirring slightly. Her small hand reached out and touched Jack's face softly. Jack froze at the gentle touch. It was the first time Lyra had shown any sign of life. Her big eyes opened slowly and looked up at him. Jack smiled, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. "Hello, little one," he said softly. "You're safe here." Lyra tried to speak, but only a small sound came out. Jack nodded encouragingly. "It's okay. Take your time." Cora watched quietly, her eyes filled with hope. Jack felt something change between him and the child. A strange bond was forming, deep and strong. Over the next hours, Jack cared for Lyra gently. He fed her water and small pieces of food Cora had found. He wrapped her in dry cloths to keep her warm. Lyra's strength slowly returned, and her eyes grew brighter. Jack talked to her quietly, telling stories of his home. Lyra listened with wide eyes, and sometimes she smiled. Jack could see her trust. Growing with every moment, he felt his heart open in a way he had never felt before. He was no longer just a stranger in a strange land. He was someone important to this small alien child. Korra explained more about Lyra's people. They were from a royal line, strong and proud. But hunted by enemies, Lyra was the last hope of her family. And her survival meant everything. Jack understood the weight of his promise to protect her. He vowed silently to never let her face the darkness alone. As night deepened, the fire's glow cast soft light on their faces. Jack and Korra watched over Lyra like guardians of an ancient secret. The strange bond between the human and the alien child grew stronger. It was a connection made by trust, hope, and shared fear. Jack knew their lives had changed forever. Suddenly, Lyra reached out her tiny hand again. This time, she held Jack's finger tightly. Jack felt a surge of emotion. He smiled and whispered, "You're not alone anymore." The child's eyes closed gently, and she fell into a peaceful sleep. Jack looked at Korra and nodded. They both knew the journey ahead would be hard, but this bond gave them new courage. Together, they would face the dangers and protect Lyra's future. Outside the cave, the forest was quiet once more. But shadows moved silently in the distance. Enemies watched and waited. The strange bond was a light in the growing darkness, and the fight to save the alien child had only just begun. The next morning, the forest was quiet but tense. Jack woke to the soft breathing of Lyra beside him. Her small hand still held his finger. A silent trust between them. The sun's light filtered weakly through the thick trees, but danger was never far in this wild place. Korra stood at the cave entrance, watching the forest carefully. Her eyes scanned every shadow and movement. "We cannot stay here," she said quietly. "The hunters will return soon." Jack nodded, knowing she was right. They had to keep moving, or Lyra would be caught. Jack carefully lifted Lyra into his arms. Her body was stronger now, but still too weak to walk far. He wrapped her in dry cloths and held her close. Korra led the way through a hidden path she knew well. The forest seemed to close behind them like a living wall. As they moved, Jack's heart pounded with fear and hope. He wondered how many hunters were searching for Lyra now. He thought of the hunter from the cave who had fled the night before. Would they come back with more soldiers and weapons? The forest was full of secrets, and not all were friendly. Suddenly, from above, a sharp whistle broke the silence. Jack stopped and looked up. Korra's eyes narrowed. "They have found us," she said. The whistle was a signal, quick and clear. Jack's muscles tightened as he prepared for what was coming. The hunters moved fast through the trees, their dark shapes like shadows. Jack counted at least 6 figures, armed and dangerous. They were close, but the forest gave Jack and his friends a chance. Korra whispered, "We must lose them in the ravine." Jack didn't ask how. He trusted her knowledge of the land. The path grew steeper and rocky as they rushed toward a deep ravine. The ground shook with the pounding feet of the hunters behind. Jack held Lyra tightly. Feeling her heartbeat quicken with fear, he spoke softly to her. "Stay strong, little one. We will get through this." Lyra's eyes met his, full of trust despite the danger. At the edge of the ravine, the drop was steep and dark. Korra turned to Jack and whispered, "We can cross here, but be careful." Jack looked down at the narrow, broken bridge of fallen trees and rocks. He knew one wrong step could mean falling into the cold water far below. But there was no other way. Slowly, Jack stepped onto the makeshift bridge. He moved carefully, testing each step before putting his weight down. Lyra held onto him tightly, her small hands gripping his shirt. Behind them, the hunters shouted and cursed, closing in fast. Jack's breath came quick, but his eyes never left the path. Halfway across, a loud crack echoed through the ravine. A piece of the bridge broke under Jack's foot. He stumbled, but caught himself just in time. Lyra gasped, and Jack whispered, "I'm okay. Keep holding on." The hunters' voices grew louder, pressing them forward. Jack pushed harder, moving faster with Lyra in his arms. Cora crossed the bridge behind him, her steps sure and steady. Finally, they reached the other side, breathless and shaken. Jack looked back to see the hunters hesitating at the broken bridge. They could not follow without risking the fall. For a moment, silence returned to the ravine. But Jack knew the hunters would not give up so easily. "We must keep moving," Cora said, urgency in her voice. Jack nodded, tightening his hold on. Lyra, she closed her eyes and rested against him as they moved deeper into the forest. Jack's mind raced. Who were these hunters, and why did they want Lyra so badly? Cora told him stories of dark powers and old wars. Lyra's bloodline was a key to great strength and danger. Enemies wanted to use her for their own gain. Jack felt the weight of his promise, heavier than ever. He was not just protecting a child, he was guarding a future. The forest whispered around them, full of life and secrets, but Jack's eyes stayed sharp for every sign of danger. The pursuit was far from over. Suddenly, Cora stopped and held up her hand. She listened carefully, then motioned for silence. Jack and Lyra froze, waiting. A quiet rustle came from the bushes nearby. A small animal appeared, and then another. Cora smiled softly, relief in her eyes. "These creatures are friends," she said. "They will guide us." Jack felt hope bloom again, with new allies in the wild. Maybe they could find safety, but the hunters were still behind, always hunting, always near. The journey ahead was long and dangerous. Jack knew they would need courage and trust more than ever. For now, the chase had made their bond stronger. Together, they would face the storm, the forest, and their enemies. The story of the lost alien child and the brave human continued. The forest grew thick and wild around Jack, Cora, and the small alien child. Lyra, the sun was low, and the shadows stretched long across the ground. Jack's legs were tired from carrying Lyra through the rough paths. His eyes scanned the trees. Always alert for signs of the hunters, the danger felt close, but hope still burned in their hearts. Cora moved quietly ahead, her glowing eyes guiding the way. Suddenly, she stopped and raised a hand to silence Jack. A soft rustling came from the bushes nearby. Jack tensed, ready for another attack, but this time it was different. Out of the shadows stepped a small group of aliens. They looked fierce but peaceful, their eyes full of kindness. One of them, a tall woman with silver hair, smiled softly. "We have been watching you," she said. "You are not alone anymore." Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. The woman introduced herself as Mira, leader of a hidden tribe. Her people had lived in the forest for many years, protecting those in need. Mira's tribe knew of Lyra's story and the hunters who chased her. They had been waiting for the right moment to help. Jack was grateful, but still cautious. Mira and her tribe brought food and clean water for Lyra. They set up a small camp with fire and shelter, safe from the forest's dangers. Lyra's strength grew as she ate and rested. Her eyes sparkled brighter, and her small hands moved with more life. Jack watched her with hope he had never known before. That night, around the fire, Mira told stories of old battles and brave heroes. She spoke of a time when her tribe fought to protect the innocent. Jack listened closely, learning about the deep bonds between her people and the forest. Cora stood beside Jack, her eyes shining with trust in their new allies. The strange family had grown larger, united by a common goal. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the quiet night. The hunters had found them again, their voices angry and close. Jack's heart raced as he grabbed his knife, ready to defend the camp. Myra and her tribe stood tall, Preparing to fight, Lyra clung to Jack, scared but protected. The hunters moved through the trees like shadows. Jack and Mira led the defense. Their courage strong, the forest seemed to come alive with the fight. Branches cracked and animals howled in the distance. The hunters realized this would not be an easy victory. During the battle, Jack saw how fierce Myra's tribe could be. They moved swiftly and silently, protecting Lyra with fierce loyalty. Jack fought with all his strength, driven by love and promise. Slowly, the hunters were pushed back and forced to retreat. The forest grew quiet again, but the danger was far from gone. After the fight, Jack knelt beside Lyra, checking her for injuries. She smiled weakly. Comforted by the presence of her protectors, Jack whispered, "You are safe with us now." Mira placed a hand on Jack's shoulder, her eyes full of respect. "We will stand with you, always," she said. Days passed as the group traveled deeper into the forest. Myra's tribe knew secret paths and hidden places. They shared stories and laughter, bringing light to the dark journey. Lyra's health improved quickly, and her spirit grew bright. Jack felt a bond with this new family, stronger than ever. But Jack knew the world outside the forest was still dangerous. The hunters would not stop until they had what they wanted. He looked at Lyra and made a silent vow, no matter what happened. He would protect her and keep her safe. Their journey was far from over. But now they had new hope. As the sun rose on a new day, Jack, Cora, Mira, and Lyra stood together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The forest whispered around them, full of life and mystery. The lost alien child had found unexpected help, and the brave human had found a family he never expected. The sun rose slowly over the forest, casting warm light on the small group. Jack looked at Lyra, now stronger and full of life. Her bright eyes reflected hope and trust in him. Cora and Mira stood nearby, their faces calm but ready. They all knew the final test was coming. The hunters had returned, more determined than ever. Jack felt a heavy weight on his chest but refused to show fear. He held Lyra's hand tightly, promising silently, "I will protect you." The forest seemed to hold its breath as the first hunters appeared in the clearing. Their eyes cold and filled with hate, Mira stepped forward, her voice ringing clear. "This child belongs to the forest and to those who protect her," she declared. The hunters sneered, but hesitation flickered in their eyes. Jack raised his knife and stood tall beside Mira and Cora. The small group formed a circle around Lyra, a shield of strength and courage. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed. Through the trees, Carrick, the great protector beast, emerged from the shadows. Its eyes glowed fierce and powerful, and its presence was commanding. The hunters faltered, fear gripping their hearts. They knew this was more than just a fight. They faced the forest's wrath. The battle began with fierce energy and loud cries. Jack fought with every ounce of strength he had. Cora and Mira moved swiftly, protecting Lyra and striking at the enemies. Lyra watched, her small hands clenched in determination. She knew this fight was for her future. Carrick charged into the hunters, its roar shaking the ground. The beast's power drove the enemies back. One by one, the hunters retreated into the dark forest. Jack stood, breathing heavily, his body aching but his spirit strong. The danger had passed. At least for now. Jack knelt beside Lyra and smiled warmly. "You are very brave," he said softly. "You have a family now." Lyra's eyes shone with tears of relief and happiness. Cora and Mira joined them, their faces filled with hope. The strange little group had become a true family. In the days that followed, the forest seemed to welcome them. Birds sang, and the sunlight danced through the leaves. Jack felt a peace he had never known. He looked at Lyra and knew his life had changed forever. The lost child was no longer alone and neither was he. Jack made a promise to stay by Lyra's side, to protect her and help her grow strong. Together with Cora, Mira, and Carrick, they would build a new home. A place where the past dangers could not reach them, where trust and love would grow like the forest around them. Lyra smiled and reached for Jack's hand. Our small voice whispered, "Thank you." Jack squeezed her hand gently and replied, "You're mine now, and I will never let you go." The forest held their secret. The story of a human and an alien child bound by fate, courage, and an unbreakable bond as the sun set, painting the sky with colors of hope. Jack, Lyra, Cora, and Myra stood together, looking toward the future. The storm was behind them, and a new journey had begun. In this strange new world, they had found family and strength. The lost alien child was no longer alone, and the human, who refused to let her go, had found his true purpose. Their story was just beginning. Together, they faced the unknown with hope and courage. A new beginning had come at last.